Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. And if it's your first time here, I'm Janetta, an author who loves to draw. On my channel, I focus on combining storytelling with art. If that's something you're interested in, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let's get to it. Chapter 25. Brooklyn was using everything within her power to not lose her mind. After the gunfire and hearing the bodies hit the floor, she was taken on another long drive. Whoever had her now hadn't said a word to her. Something told her that whoever it was wasn't to be messed with. She kept her mouth shut. She had been brought to another location. Now she sat, still blindfolded, and with her hands tied together, waiting for whatever was to happen next. She prayed the next step wasn't her getting harmed. The sound of a door opening caused her to jump. She listened to the footsteps entering the room. They approached her and did a slow circle around her. "Let me cut straight to the chase," a female voice whispered. "You have something my husband wants. You are going to tell me where to find it." "Since I have no idea what you're talking about, please enlighten me." Brooklyn tried her best not to sound glib. "Trust me when I tell you, I'll gladly hand whatever it is over if it means you're letting me go." "Smart girl," a male voice slightly familiar to Brooklyn spoke. Her mind started trying to place it. The female voice asked, "Where do you keep your work files?" "Work files?" Brooklyn asked. "Which work files? Do you want to ask questions and possibly have to be put down for knowing too much?" The female voice sounded impatient. "Or do you want to tell us where you keep your client files for work?" Brooklyn bit back the smart response that tried to flip off her lips. "Various places. I keep files at work. Some files are in my briefcase, and some at home in my desk." "Desk? What desk?" The male voice questioned, and again Brooklyn couldn't shake the familiarity of it. "My desk at home. Well, right now it's acting as my console table. It converts into my desk when I work from home. I keep some files in there. You have to pull it away from the wall to see that it has a place for files." She barely finished her sentence when the footsteps all hurried out of the door. The door slammed shut, and once again she was left waiting. Lane picked the lock to Brooklyn's place, while Dante and Hunter kept watch. They entered and started to look around. 20 minutes later, they hadn't turned up anything. The console caught Dante's attention. It wasn't the one she used to have when they dated, but he wondered if it was the same type. He pulled it away from the wall, and sure enough, it was Brooklyn's convertible desk. He tried to open a drawer, but it was locked. Lang was quicker at picking locks than he was, so he waved her over and she picked it within seconds. She pulled out the files and they started going through them. Hunter's phone began to ring. It was Vince. He stepped into Brooklyn's bedroom to take the call. "Hey man, what do you have?" "I tracked down some partners of the two gentlemen you sent photos of earlier. They were just a couple of hired hoods. They weren't prone to violence, just guys looking for quick, easy money," Vince explained. "Were you able to find out who was their client?" "It's rumored that they followed the guy that hired them after their meeting and devised a plan to blackmail him and extract more money. If it's true, that's most likely what got them killed." "So what's the name of the person who hired them?" Hunter looked out to see Lane going through the files. "Alex Michaels. Does that name sound familiar?" "Not to me, but I'll run it by Dante and his associate," Hunter said, and then thanked Vince before hanging up. Hunter stepped back into the living room. Lang was staring down at the files on Brooklyn's desk. "My source pulled up a name that I need to run by." All three of them snapped their attentions towards the door as someone started rattling the handle. The rattling stopped once the person realized it wasn't open. Lang mouthed to Dante, "Someone is picking the locks." Dante and Lang pulled out their guns. Hunter hesitated before reaching for his, slipping the phone in his pocket. The door opened and two goons stood in the doorway. They quickly spotted the guns, turned tail, slammed the door, and took off running before anyone could fire a shot. Dante, Hunter, and Lane went into pursuit mode. The goons took the stairs and jumped down 5 stairs to the landing as they rushed toward the ground floor. Hunter and Dante followed suit with Lane close behind. The goons rushed out of the building, each taking off in a different direction. Without thought, Hunter and Dante split, each following one of the goons. Lane came outside last and was about to go after Dante and his goon when a third man caught her eye. He was standing at the end of the alley watching and waiting. When he saw the action, he turned on his heels and started to walk off. Lang took off after him. She didn't realize she was in trouble until the black SUV pulled up beside her and someone dragged her in. Lang immediately pulled her rugger in between her arm and her side and pulled the trigger. Her assailant's hand dropped away from the door handle. Pushing the door open, she jumped out of the SUV just as the driver turned, trying to use his right hand to grab her. With the passenger door open, Lang quickly dropped to the ground on her back and fired into the vehicle. The truck door slammed closed as it peeled off. She could hear footsteps running toward her from behind. Rolling onto her stomach, she reloaded, preparing for round two. Relief filled her as she saw Dante running towards her. Dante extended his hand to help her up. "You good?" "I am now." Lang used his hand to pull herself up. "We need to get out of here." He started jogging and Lang fell in line, both occasionally glancing back. "Where's Hunter?" "We went in opposite directions. I doubled back when I lost the guy when he crossed the street. I couldn't make it across traffic without getting hit. Once a van passed, I had no idea where he went." When they rounded the corner, they found Hunter on the opposite end of the block with his knee in the neck of the guy he was chasing and his Glock pressed against the man's forehead. Dante and Lang picked up speed to get to him. Hunter was demanding to know where Brooklyn was. They could hear the sirens in the distance. "Look, we need to take this interrogation somewhere else," Lang said, looking down the street to see if she saw the flashing lights of the police cars. They sounded as if they were getting closer, but they weren't within sight yet. Hunter yanked the guy to his feet. "You take my truck and him. I'll go back to Brooklyn's to grab the files before the boys in blue get here." "Don't you need a vehicle?" Dante asked as he grabbed the badly beaten guy from Hunter. "Don't worry about me. Get this guy somewhere where you can beat Brooklyn's location out of him." "Gentlemen, we need to move," Lang urged. "Call me if you find the file," Dante stated as they headed to Hunter's truck. It didn't seem to be in the pile Lang was going through. Lang glanced around. The flashing lights could be seen in the distance, and curious people started peeking out the windows. "Grab them anyway," she instructed. "We just skimmed through them. We could have missed something." "Call me if he gives you anything," Hunter stated, taking off running back to Brooklyn's apartment. Once in the apartment, Hunter was relieved to see that no one had doubled back. He looked again in the desk drawer to make sure Lang had grabbed all the files from the convertible desk. One file was wedged in the back. He pulled it out, then pushed the console table back in place and swiftly exited the premises. He took the back way out of the building that led to parking in the alley and did a brisk walk out of there as he saw the cop car pull up to the building. People were starting to gather in the street. Going the opposite way of the crowd, he called a friend to pick him up. Brooklyn paced the room. While grateful she was no longer blindfolded and tied up, she was still terrified. She looked around to see if there was anything she could use to break the glass wall. There was only a bed, a remote, and a dresser. The television was just beyond the glass wall. The curtain was closed, which, she learned quickly, she preferred. When the curtains were drawn back, she felt like a lab rat with her masked assailant staring, taunting her. What in the hell is going on? She wondered, racking her brain to figure out who would want to do this and why. She was extremely afraid this would not end well for her, especially since the guys that snatched her had been gunned down. She was hoping beyond hope that her usefulness would not expire before Hunter and the police tracked her down. She trusted that Hunter went to the police instead of putting this in the hands of the bad boys he was rumored to have grown up with and who he still saw occasionally. Hunter's businesses are legit. He'll go to the cops and let them know I'm missing, Brooklyn told herself as she fought her fears. She didn't have much faith in cops putting out any real effort for a black woman, but she would take whatever she could get in the way of help at this point. It was possible that Dante would come back earlier than expected and find out she was missing. She prayed he was good at his job and would find her quickly. Brooklyn jumped as the curtains were drawn back. He sat in a chair facing the glass. In spite of the mask that he wore, his eyes seemed to sear through her. It stopped her in her tracks. "It seems we have a problem. Someone has the foul, which means you won't like what happens next. He stood walking towards the glass. You are now bait in an accelerated plan. You can relax for a little while longer. Maybe. He laughed wickedly as he closed the curtain. In that moment, Brooklyn decided that if she was going to die, she'd do it trying to escape. Every time the curtain opened, she paid attention to other things in the room. He always turned the chair around from the dining room table to sit and talk. It freaked her out a bit that the table was set like he was expecting someone for a romantic dinner. Brooklyn began mentally cataloging items in that setting that she could use as a weapon. She wondered if the dresser was nailed down. She examined it and found it was nailed in place. Maybe the drawers come out and I can use one as a weapon, she thought, tugging on the drawer. Seeing that it wouldn't come out made tears form in her eyes. She kept repeating, "You will survive this," like an empowering chant. She began focusing her mind on something else. Dante empowered her to take a chance on herself. Brooke, don't limit your ability to fly. Life is about taking calculated risk. You weigh the factors and decide if you're going to take a leap of faith. Dante closed the door behind them as they entered her apartment. Brooklyn took the bags of food heading to the kitchen. What if it doesn't work out? She grabbed plates out of the cabinets. People say when you step out on faith, you don't fall, but it happens. No one wants to talk about that. Sweetie, you will never hit a home run from the dugout. Why aren't you going for the new position? This position puts that degree to get use, and you're shying away from it. He grabbed utensils out of the drawer and took the plates from Brooklyn. I hear you. You hear me, but are you listening and applying it to your life? Dante stopped fixing his plate and grabbed Brooklyn by the wrist, pulling her towards him. Brooklyn Saunders, I believe in you. I believe you are more than capable of handling this new position and all that it brings to your life. I also believe that if it doesn't work out as you hope, you will be able to use that experience to make you a better person. Dante leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. Brooklyn had her current position in her job because he had given her the courage to step up and step out of her comfort zone. Right now, she was grateful for that. Because of that moment, she was thinking about the beauty of her life instead of reflecting on regrets. Dante slammed his fist repeatedly into the torso of the man they caught running from Brooklyn's apartment. Hey, dead men don't talk, Lang warned, grabbing Dante's arm as he went to deliver another blow to the man, who looked like Dante's personal punching bag as he hung by his wrist from the low ceiling. Dante clamped onto his throat and demanded, Where's Brooklyn? Lang could see the man could barely breathe, let alone speak. Dante, step out now. When he barely moved, she stumped her foot and pointed at the door. Seething with anger, he released the man's neck and stormed out of the room. Lang looked at the guy, his chin resting limply on his chest. I'm going to ask you one question. Where's Brooklyn? He shook his head, whispering, I don't know. You don't know who hired you? You claim to not know where Brooklyn is? What do you know? I wish I had answers, but I don't know. His words were drawn out as if it hurt to talk. Lang placed the chair in front of him, looking at Dante's handprints around his throat. You're playing with your life. You either give me an answer or I'll let him. She jerked her head in the direction of the door that Dante went out of, back into the room to rip you limb from limb. Sitting down in the chair, she folded her hands and said, I'm going to ask you again, where's Brooklyn? I don't know, he muttered, blood dripping from his lips. I was paid to retrieve a fowl, and if there was a lady there to grab her. She jumped up from the chair. What? I was supposed to grab the fowl and you, he yelled as the chair clanked when it hit the floor. I swear that was it. That was all we got paid to do. I don't know where Brooklyn is. Lang turned, rushing towards the door, with their captive screaming after her. I swear that's all I know. When she burst into the hallway, Dante grabbed her by both shoulders and stared her in the eyes. What did he say about Brooklyn? He doesn't know where she is. Lang stepped away from Dante, running her hand through her hair as she walked the hall. He claims he was instructed to retrieve the fowl and me if I was there. Dante walked over to Lang, who was now leaning near one of the basement windows. You? The confusion reflected in his face as he spoke. Are you sure? Lang looked at him, nodding her head. He massaged her shoulders, trying to relax her some. Did he specifically say you or? Lang knocked his hand away from her shoulders and turned towards him. Damn it, I didn't screw up. The boy said I was supposed to grab the file and you. Who in the hell else could that you have been? Dante held his hands up. I'm sorry, Lang. I'm just trying to process the ramifications of that. We can no longer assume that before he died in prison, the deranged doctor didn't hire someone to keep his promise. Yes, it is a possibility. However, until we get solid evidence, we have to be careful not to let it cloud our judgment. She went into the little refrigerator, grabbing 2 waters. You're right, she tossed one to Dante. Dante caught the water, twisted open the bottle, took a sip, then sat on one of the metal chairs leaning on the wall. Why did Alec go through so much trouble to gain access to Bevic Media when under his other identity, Alex, he owned a successful media company like Trivision? And how is it connected with the crazy doctor? Dante, we've been catfished. Lang swiftly filled the seat next to Dante. What? Dante looked at her like she had lost her mind. Listen, just hear me out. She grabbed Dante's hands, looking deeply into his eyes to convince him she still had her wits about her. I'm listening. We know Alex and Alex are the same people. What we ignored once we learned this information was that the files we were given had 2 different pictures to represent each name. Lane looked at him as if to say, they didn't match. Since they weren't looking for either man, Lang only scanned the information for the files, not the pictures. Lang was still upset with herself for not immediately realizing that the pictures didn't match. Dante popped up from his seat and paced in front of her for a moment. Tug must have found the identity of the real person behind the 2 names, the true mastermind behind the... Exactly, Lang stood. And that file he sent to Brooklyn holds that information. We need to get to Hunter immediately. Dante and Lang both bolted towards the basement door. As they raced up the stairs, the guards at the top of the stairs opened the door with their guns drawn. They put them away once they realized who it was. The guards stepped back to allow them to come through the door. I guess we're keeping an eye on our company? Lang immediately went to grab her messenger bag and their work duffel. Yes, but keep your eyes open. This case just got upgraded to a black flag. Dante grabbed his keys and jacket, following Lang out the door. Dante unlocked Hunter's truck. Before you start clicking away, call Hunter to see if he looked at the file. Find out his location. I'll head in the direction of his club, but I hear you. We don't have time to waste. If we can confirm the identity behind Alex and Alec, we may be able to gain enough information to track Brooklyn down, she stated, throwing the duffel in the back seat, getting in the truck and buckling up. Dante pulled out his cell phone and handed it to Lang before buckling up and taking off. Chapter 26. Hunter sat at his desk, looking at the pictures of his friends in the early years. While staring at young Brooklyn's smiling face, he prayed that she'd come home safely. The thought of never seeing her smiling face again overwhelmed him in a way he had never felt before. He secretly loved Brooklyn for a while. He always kept the picture on his desk because it never raised the alarm bells and revealed his secret to anyone. Focus on finding her, he thought, as he once again tried to make sense of the contents of the files from Brooklyn's house. He shuffled through them until he came upon the one that Lang and Dante had overlooked, the one that had been wedged in the back of her convertible desk. It had a picture paper-clipped to a document labeled "The Real Alex, A.K. Alec." The photo was of a woman with "wifey" written above it. The paper was filed with names and data that he was hoping Vince could make sense of. It took just a few minutes to scan the file to a flash drive, but he kept getting error messages when he attempted to email the scanned documents to Vince. His office intercom buzzed, followed 2 seconds later by banging on the door. He opened his desk drawer to grab his Glock as the person tried to turn the locked doorknob. Hunter glanced at the security monitor. After seeing it was Alexis, he put the gun back in the drawer. He answered the intercom. "Sorry, sir. Alexis demanded to see you. We told her you're busy, but she asked to go to the restroom and ran straight for your office instead." "It's okay. Next time, know that she is not above trickery to get what she wants," Hunter stated. Alexis continued banging on the door. "Hunter, I know you're in there. What the hell has happened to Brooklyn?" "Give me a minute, I'm coming." Hunter closed the file on his desk, covering it with others before heading to the door. He glanced back at the desk to make sure the file was covered. He opened the door and Alexis pushed past him. What the hell happened to Brooklyn? I don't have any more information than what the news is reporting. He followed Alexis across the room as she bypassed the chairs to lean on his desk. Why didn't you call me? Alexis demanded to know. I called LaShawn. Well, LaShawn claims you didn't tell her much. She sat on the desk, crossing her legs. You know more than you're telling us. I have no reason to lie, Hunter frowned. Not in the mood for Alexis? Could you please get your behind off my desk and my files? She scooted off his desk, knocking the files onto the floor. Damn it, Alexis, I don't have time for this. I'm trying to get answers to your questions, but I can't if you're here wasting my time. He quickly bent over, picking up the files. Alexis pouted. If you'd called and given us regular updates, I wouldn't have to come here. Damn, Alexis. He slammed the files on the desk. The pictures went flying out of the file onto the floor. If I had an update to give, I would have called you, but I don't. Alexis jumped, startled. We just want to know what to do to help. She bent over to pick up the pictures. What are you doing with the picture of Dr. Kane Laporte and his crazy stalker chick? How do you know him? Hunter questioned as Alexis handed him the pictures. Well, we used to keep each other company. Alexis adjusted her purse on her shoulder. I'm going to get out of your way, but could you please keep me informed? He grabbed her wrist as she began to walk away. Wait! His cell phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, he silenced it. He was eager to hear her story. And Alexis' escapade is just what I need to hear. All I'm doing is waiting for a call, hoping to get more information. She looked at him confused. Didn't your cell phone just ring? Yeah, but they're supposed to call me on my office phone. Hunter decided he'd call his cousin back when he was done with Alexis. If it had been Dante, he wouldn't have done that. He set his cell on the desk. Tell me, why did you stop keeping each other company? Despite his girlfriend, we had a good thing going until he took her crazy behind on as a client. Alexis pointed to the picture of the woman on his desk. Hunter grabbed the picture of the woman. You sure this is his stalker chick? Alexis grabbed the picture, nodding her confirmation. Yeah, her hair was a different color, but it's definitely her. How did she interfere with your relationship? I'm going to need a drink for that. She crossed her arms, pinching her lips together. I can handle that. Hunter walked over to the door, closing and locking it. What do you want to drink? Alexis sat in the chair as she watched him walk over to the bar in the back of his office. One of your special concoctions, please. What's stalker chick's name? Hunter inquired as he mixed up Alexis's drink. Megan something. I don't remember. It was one thing to have a girlfriend, but girlfriend and stalker chick was a bit much. He claimed her clinginess would end once she got back on her feet and got to a good place in her life. Did you really let that stop you? Hunter tried not to react to Megan's name as he dropped a cherry in the drink. No, but fortunately for me, he lost his mind, killed somebody in an attempt to track down his foster sister, and ended up in jail before I could do anything stupid. All of that creeped me out because when we first met, he told me my name reminded him of his sister, Alicia Michael. And I thought it was a cute way to engage me in a conversation. Hunter handed Alexis the drink, then leaned on the desk near her chair. Besides, that Megan chick hacked into my damn bank account and took my money. She wouldn't give it back until I promised to stop seeing him. Hunter stood and got a coaster for Alexis to put her drink on. Do you know what happened to Stalker Chick? Alexis crossed her legs and leaned towards Hunter. She watched as he moved across the room. The rumor is her crazy butt was at every trial date. She was probably his pen pal until he got killed in prison. Do you know how the stalker became his client? He sat the coaster on the desk in front of her. She came from a well-to-do family. Alexis sipped her drink. I guess her parents pulled some string to keep her out of jail for hacking. Instead, she had to do therapy sessions with him. Alexis looked at Hunter over her glass before finishing it off, then sitting it on the desk. Interesting. Hunter figured he'd gotten enough information for Vince to go on. Hopefully it was enough to put all the pieces to the puzzle together. Well, I better get going. I want to go down to the station to see if I can get more answers that way. Alexis jumped out of the chair. I can go with you. No. Hunter had to think of something quickly to keep him from having company. He needed to get Alexis out so he could check in with Dante and relay the information he just got to Vince. If he could go make a care package for Brooklyn, That would be a big help. Alexis crossed her arms. Really, Hunter? Her stance said, I'm going with you. Alexis, her apartment has been taped off by cops after the last incident. When they find her, she'll want to be able to change and brush her teeth. He pulled out his wallet. If you could buy an overnight bag, an outfit or two, sleepwear, toiletries, and anything you think she would need, he handed her $300. I'm on it. I thought you were just trying to get me out of your hair, but you have a valid point. Alexis headed to the door. Do you really think she's coming home? He unlocked the door. I'm counting on it. I'm sure she might not want to stay home for a couple of days. You're right. I can handle it. Alexis folded the money and slipped it into her purse. It'll make things easier for her when she comes back to us. Thanks. Hunter held the door as she walked out. She turned to give him a stern look. Don't forget to call if you hear anything new. Hunter nodded, closed and locked the door, then returned to his desk. He noticed his cell phone lighting up on the desk. He reached for it, missing another call. I must have accidentally turned off the ringer. He saw he missed several calls from Dante and a few from a number he didn't recognize. His top priority was to call Vince, then call Dante. He knew whatever Dante wanted had to be important for him to call several times, but he wanted this information in Vince's hands so he could start digging into it. Hunter knew he had to make it quick so that he could get back to Dante as soon as possible. Vince immediately stated upon answering, I don't have any updates for you. Well, I may have some for you, Hunter quickly told him Alexis' story. When Hunter finished and asked Vince what he made of it, Vince said, Hold up, I'm getting an instant message. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then Vince's urgent voice asked, Where are you? My office. You and your employees need to get out ASAP. I've been informed trouble is coming your way. Thanks. I'll call once I relocate. Hunter picked up his office phone and called security. Did Alexis leave the building? Yes. Lock up and get everyone out of here. Trouble is heading our way, and we don't have plans to be here to greet it, Hunter said as he tried to scan the file over to Vince. He kept getting the error. You sure you want us to leave too? The head of security moved the phone from his mouth to yell to his team to pack it up and get ready to head out. Gathering all the papers and pictures, Hunter returned them to the file, sitting it on his desk as he shut down his computer. Positive. Okay, we'll be on call if you need us. You know what? Hunter said. Why don't you come back in 2 to 3 hours, assess the damage, if any, and take care of it for me? Hunter figured he'd be too distracted with the latest development to follow up on the club. Text me if you need my assistance. Will do. Hunter watched the monitors until he was sure everyone had left the building. He grabbed his gun, keys, jacket, the file, and the flash drive before exiting the office. Moving quickly, he went to his car, pulling out in the parking lot and cutting through the alley in order to come out further down the street. As he exited the alley, he realized he left something in his office that he really needed. Plus, he hadn't called Dante back. Hunter maneuvered the car back towards the club, planning to run in quickly, then call Dante afterwards. Hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be and stay blessed.